Okay, hello everyone. This is Guillaume Lambert. I'm with Easy here with conversion therapy from a Uniswap LP to a market maker on Panoptic. Welcome everyone. It's been an eventful week. I think we skipped the LP a little bit last week. Lots going on. I'm happy to have Easy back. Um, the way that we do this is that we are discussing trades. We are starting. We started, I guess, earlier this year with Rosalie trying to go over how to become a better options trader. Rosalie used to be a meme coin trader. Now she's a master options trader on meme coins. Easy here, come here with a different background where she started as an LP in Uniswap, has had a good understanding of it since it's launched. Now we want to convert her to being a little bit more involved in the option selling side, which is how we see options and Uniswap kind of come together in Panoptic. And yeah, this is not financial advice. What we see here is just for entertainment purposes. We discuss trades. We have an account, helenkeller.panoptic.eth, that may or may not trade based on our recommendations. So nothing that you should hear here is something you should do. Maybe you should do it, but on your own, kind of when you do research. But yeah, first of all, how are you doing today, Easy?
Good. Happy Monday. Getting ready for consensus in Toronto. So that'll be good.
Exactly.
I'm going to your homeland.
There we go. I mean, do you have your up-to-date passport?
Of
And
course. Of course. I don't know if they'll let me in though now with the US, but
who
it's fine.
knows?
We'll be good.
Actually, I don't know if you know about this, but in Canada, there is some backlash for sure. But one thing that I'm not sure you go to a grocery store, but one thing that happens is that if you go to a grocery store and people see, for instance, strawberries from California or Florida, they don't buy them. They actually let them rot, and they buy the one that's more expensive from Canada. I guess they're in season. I don't know how it's gonna last in the winter, but some people send me photos of like two shelves, one stacked with American made produce, and the other one that was more expensive from Canada was empty. Mm.
Honestly, the Canadian one's probably like better, to be honest. Like,
You don't like the huge, humongous strawberries that they
no,
sell at
no, I
Wegmans?
honestly get like the Canadian tomatoes and stuff when I go to Whole Foods. So
Oh, really? Are they
yeah,
different?
I mean, they just are better right now. I mean, they're not in season in the US, so if, like I don't
Oh,
think they're in season in Canada either. But honestly, they're just a little bit better right now. So
so very cool. So you go to Toronto, consensus, very excited about this.
yep.
Shedding
Toronto
Panoptic.
Maple Leafs will be playing in Toronto on Wednesday.
Will you be
The
able?
Panthers.
Who,
What?
who are they? I mean, they beat Ottawa
Playing
again.
the They're playing the Panthers, so
Hmm.
Florida. So very interesting. But I mean, it's hockey. I'll just go undercover and pretend to be a Toronto fan.
No, that's. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of snowbirds that may be also big. Uh, I mean, Florida Panthers fans.
Yeah,
Uh, at least, yeah. But this is,
but
yeah, very cool. All right, so we'll do a brief review of the market. We will see what Helen has done over the past few days. Very eventful,
yeah,
definitely. Uh, Everyone's feeling better for sure, but the charts are very green. To some extent, it seems like ETH may be leading the charge because it's been doing very well over the past 7 days.
I think
Again,
Eats saw that Gainsey video and said we got to do something about this.
and then people also were saying what we see on Twitter is such a small, like little bubble,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and people cannot expect the price to move in any ways. But then nothing necessarily happened. Pectra was a few days earlier, but nothing happened. Just some whale, some fun, someone seems to be buying, or at least I don't think even he's even covering shorts and stuff. It's like, yeah, pretty organic demand over the few days. None of these kind of BART charts. Do you know about BART charts?
Like the with the wicks or what? What are
No,
you
so
talking?
it's used to be with even Bitmax or Perps, but people would move the price very suddenly, and it would go up for a while, and it'd go
Mhm.
down immediately, like Bart's
Yeah.
head. And
Oh,
then this
okay.
is a different type of trade, but because it's kind of gradual, no sudden move, might be a good sign for some comeback. I guess ETH has been pummeled definitely to the ground. Bitcoin is going up as well. I don't know if we can see the ratio here,
I was
but the
just gonna
ETH
say
rate,
what the ratio doing.
the ETH ratio is. Oh no, this is a flip one. So let's look at Ethereum priced in Bitcoin. But yes, this is also another sign. A lot of what we've seen with Rosely is that we can trade the ratio of ETH BTC. A lot of what we saw over the past months and even years is that the ratio was going way, way down.
I
But
know. This is what I was saying though, that like because I hypothesized, I just felt that ETH was kind of a floor, or at least a area of support, I guess, for ETH price, and that I was if Bitcoin goes back up, I have a feeling ETH will just come back up. So I don't know if that's reflected in my trades. I don't remember what I did.
oh, but yeah, I don't know. So if you were bullish on ETH, what would you do in terms of trading? Say on Panoptic using options. Again, we haven't
Oh,
covered the strategies, but yeah.
I mean, I probably would have just done some call options now.
Okay, so why don't we try this? So this is the what we want to do is to convert Uniswap positions. So this is a sneak preview at the migrator interface, but uh, Helen had 5 positions. 3 of them have been migrated. We'll cover that. There's 2 left, which are the ETH Uni and ETH Cow swap. One of them is in range, one of them is out of range. But we currently have positions in 3 markets. The ETH BTC was recentered, I think, because the ratio moved. So we'll see if it's still in range. The
Cool.
ETH SPX 6900 is making some money, but this one was, I think, transferred 1-to-1, so no change. And we had ETH USDC as a position. And now the way this works is that in Uniswap, we have funds. They are represented by this NFT. If you first want to migrate into Panoptic, you have to burn that NFT, transfer the liquidity into Uniswap, into Panoptic, and then you open a new position. And then
Mhm.
if this is the case, then you can actually take that same position here, see what it looks like in Panoptic. And if you like it, yes, you can mint. If not, you may need to change the parameters. But in that case, both the ETH BTC and ETH SPX were burnt and reminted. We have positions open. We have nothing open for the ETH USDC. So that's what I said about with Izzy. We have currently $3,900 worth of collateral, most of it in USDC. And let's set up a trade. Now, coming in from a Uniswap LP, you probably have some these up range and kind of in the middle or large or wide. But now, in terms of options trading, it's a different entry point. But yeah, if I were to say you have some funds, you want to LP in Uniswap, what would you do as in terms of maybe range selection and kind of price?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because we've had just a pretty aggressive move up. So, right, if you are maybe like a high frequency LPer, you would have consistently been having to, like, you've been sold out of your ETH, you are getting USDC, and then you keep having to buy up on the high end.
And I think that's
Um,
what happened too. So we had a position in range last week.
yeah,
Price went up. That position was part of it ETH, part of it USD. Now it's all USDC. So in theory, that
yeah.
position made money. But yeah,
I mean, like
would
in
you?
theory, you either set it a bit wider because clearly there's some like volatility going on. And I guess you just have to kind of make the guess and say, okay, we're at 20, just short of 2,500 on ETH. Like it's where it's been kind of comfortable sitting. BTC is kind of at new all-time highs, or did it hit new all-time highs this weekend?
Yeah, it went
Um,
down a little bit over the past few hours, even. But yeah,
right. So it's either like this is kind of maybe the end of some sort of short bull run, and it might kind of go up and down again.
so are you directional mostly then when you set up LP positions, or you want to
Not
maximize price and range?
directional. Yeah, kind of trying to maximize where you don't get you can kind of stay in range somewhat, right? Because you want some level of volatility because that means that you are collecting more trading fees, but you don't want to have to just consistently be closing and reopening.
Yeah,
Even if you're
exactly.
selling up on the top end, then because you are buying at a worse price if you go in 50-50 each time. Um, so like if it starts to become more volatile like this, I feel like you kind of go a little bit wider of a range to try to absorb some of this volatility and
Okay.
I'll have to sell out. And
So one
then
thing that so again, so the interface allows us to kind of choose a range as well, choose a location. But one thing that is coming from the options trading world is to some extent the world only ends once, meaning that if there's a lot of volatility, if there's a big crash or a big upward move, and we've covered this a little bit with Rosie as well, is that it's very sudden, but afterwards you kind of stay in range, or at least you have the ability to be like not even expecting another price move. So a lot of what I do personally as well in options trading is that I wait for a big move and then I double down almost. But I would even say you could be even tighter because the odds are almost in your favor for the price to not move as much after a big move, if that makes sense. You have a
yeah,
huge amount, you have a few hours, few days for people to kind of react. And afterwards, it's more often than not saying a bit more quiet. So I wouldn't, for instance, go to being a year wide, which is extremely wide after a move that we've seen, because in all likelihood, maybe it keeps going up. But what we've seen is that it seems to be a bit more stable. So you would normally not even go like you could do a short term play in a way. You could even do a weekly trade, which is 2100 to 2700, but that would be kind of a short term play that capitalized on the quiet nature of the market after a move. And then you could, after a week, redeploy, go wider, but then kind of tap into that shorter momentum, if that makes sense.
right. Yeah.
And are you comfortable with being bullish, neutral, or bearish in your trade? Still bullish. You can still be bullish, but have a shorter time scale, for instance. But yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. A little part of me is kind of like happy with the recent price push, but I don't know. I feel like we might be kind of hitting a bit of a ceiling right now.
so
Um,
neutral
but
to bearish, even. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, what just happened? We just came to a trade agreement with China, right?
Yes.
Like just kind of, I feel like that's
Huge
already
deal.
kind of priced in somewhat. Yeah, I mean, for the next week. And then people might be at the conference, so people are busy and not trading, so things might be flat.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how have we been to consensus? It used to be New York, right, or
Texas, I think.
Texas? Okay,
Um,
so
no, so this is the first time in Toronto, and I haven't
I
been.
see.
It's
I
getting
see.
late.
At least in Denver, we saw a huge crash, but we
Yeah,
saw some action during Token 2049, but it wasn't as big. So I don't know if the whales being hold up there in Canada means that there's
maybe.
less ability to trade. Uh,
Maybe.
but yeah, so I think I'd say so. You are you also comfortable with a more kind of short time scale, which is maybe a week as opposed to a month?
Well, I mean, if we're back here on Monday doing this, then yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
perfect.
because I'll be gone Wednesday and Friday at the conference. So.
And also, you said you're not sure. It's definitely not bullish, but it's maybe neutral or a bit bearish even.
Oh, yeah, more neutral. Just because I mean, yeah, like you're saying, after some of these price kicks and after this runs, there's usually just always a slight correction, and whether or not that's already happened is kind of hearsay. There's already been a slight kind of
Yeah, we're down a little bit even from the all-time
right.
high on that high this week. So yeah, so I'm okay with also kind of I would also do a same thing, shorter term, more neutral because you don't know what's going on in price action after a big move. And yeah, that could be definitely a trade. And this is the view that maybe most Uniswap LPs are used to, which is a range. And also, yeah, do you think within the next week it's realistic that we stay between 2200 and 2700 in terms of price?
In the next week, yeah.
And that, yeah, it's all about timescales too. And then if it's the next day, and again, next day between 2375 and 2550, I would also be comfortable, but I would need to check it again a day. But yes, the week, that's the time component. If it's very wide, you have more time for the market to kind of try to beat you. But if you're comfortable with that weekly timescale, then yeah. So overall, this is the view that most Uniswap LPs may be used to. Choose a range,
Yeah.
expect the price to be in range. We're neutral as well, so we'll kind of revert back to the options trade. But if I were to show you this as an LP, you have a good grasp, right? A range, some width, some price action, but you're comfortable with that being in range. So if we swap, this position is actually, yeah, a delta neutral position. It's selling a put and selling a call option, and it creates this type of payoff. And that's a slightly different view on Panoptic versus on Uniswap or any AMMs. We do show the value of your LP position with price, which is kind of not all at all clear that this is the payoff you have, but the way we create it, it's neutral, meaning that it's flat around here. So even if the price goes down 5%, you lose maybe 1% or 2%. This is kind of the delta neutrality. If it goes up by a lot, then you can be exposed, but at least that's the delta neutral one. You want to have this part be flat, and then that means that you don't think the price is going to move much, and you just hope that there's going to be a lot of trading between these two range that will collect more fees.
Yeah.
So this is different, and most LP positions are bullish by construct, and they have this type of payoff. And if I were to ask you, would you be willing to deploy capital in a payoff that looks like that?
Well, like 2 weeks ago, yeah.
In retrospect, but
Right.
yeah, but the top side is capped in terms of profits. The downside has a lot more risks, like twice as much as digital neutral.
Yeah.
But this is inherently bullish. The most green you see is on the up to the left, right? I mean that side of the
Yeah.
screen.
Well, it is interesting. I do feel like some LPs feel that they then lose on the upside again, right? Like because of like the impermanent loss that they've missed out
Yeah.
on. Right? So if they, right in this scenario, they've been sold out of ETH at what, say like 2000 or something like that, and then they feel that they've now lost that additional.
It was that. Is this something that you maybe are still worrying about or used to worry about? That
I definitely
convert
used
loss?
to. Yeah, because just when you kind of first start LPing and yeah, when I've yeah, and now I've kind of been converted to the I've been purple pilled, and now I'm kind of converted into this mindset where, you still have gained on the upside, you just have capped your upside. That's that's everything.
I mean, you made money, and no one went broke ever making money, and that's kind
Yeah.
of how I see it. And yeah,
Yeah.
so that is what the vanilla LP position looks like. I'm also would be a bit worried about this risk on the downside,
Right.
and that's why we have the delta. And then just for fun, we can look at the bearish case. And the bearish case is really when you are convinced it's never going to go up again, only goes down, all the profits on the downside, and that's a different trade, and it's fine too.
Well,
But we,
I'm sure a
yeah,
number of people feel that we've hit kind of like
I mean,
kind of
if
a
it's a day type trade, and maybe I could say I could imagine going below 2400 over the next
right.
day, and depending on your size, but yeah, you can say one ETH, but you could still make $50, $60 plus the fees. And on a day you can be bearish, on a week you can be neutral, on the year you can be bullish. That's kind of how you juggle all the different timescales. But yes, if we were to go back to that weekly delta neutral trade, that would be kind of that payoff.
Yeah.
And yeah, certainly fine with me in terms of the goal of this position is to truly be in range. You want to optimize time in range. You don't want to see explosions of volatility. If it does move either ways, you're losing, and this is kind of the price leaving that range. So that's why this position, people call this short volatility. You want the volatility to be the same or go down, and that's how they make the most money. And that's kind of how maybe people are maybe hearing about short volatility on the options trade. In this case, it's just you want a volatility to be decreasing, staying in range, not being subject to that wild price move.
Yeah. Which you're saying is kind of common to see after a large price move.
And maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. At the end of the day, what I find like it's a lot of what the market. There's no patterns, I guess, but there is some. some response that happens. And those that needed to hedge their position, those that needed to cover their losses, those that wanted to FOMO in, they've done this over the past 2 days.
Yeah.
Now it's either another big whale that wants to buy a bunch or someone that wants to now sell the local top. But what's going to happen is mostly these kind of back and forth trades, at least I think, given these large price moves.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're to believe what's going on crypto Twitter, it's Ethereum to 10K.
It was
On
Ethereum to
sale,
zero 2 weeks ago.
okay. Yeah, I know. Exactly. So, you know, I'm just going based off of me looking at the Ethereum pool consistently over the last 4 years.
Yeah, and the price tells one story, and the liquidity tells a different story as well. And sometimes we show, but the volatility as well tells a different story. So this it's a little bit more multifaceted than just maybe perps and trying to kind of look at the chart and go up or down. The liquidity component is somewhat useful because no, yeah, we don't see this, but we could also choose a range that's different. Now it was truly delta neutral, or kind of dead smack in the middle of it, and that's how you kind of express the neutrality. But you could imagine going to different strikes, different widths to maximize returns, but you wouldn't go there necessarily. Everything seems to be very straightforward. So yeah, I would say Helen Keller, if you're listening, that could be one trade: a delta neutral straddle on each USDC. And we haven't talked about the sizing of that position, but same thing maybe in another last lesson before we read. But yeah, the way you size a position in Uniswap, meaning you choose your range and then you have to enter an amount. Like, can you give some background how you would choose that, or how would you kind of scale the amount of funds you put in that LP position?
I mean, yeah, I don't do. Certainly, when I first started, I wasn't really that concerned with hedging or doing anything like that. It's pretty much however much ETH and USDC I wanted to put into that pool, kind of just went 100% into that pool, and that's where you just kind of need to make sure that you just have enough, I guess, for like the gas fees and stuff like that. But that's outside
Would you
of what
would you
I'm.
swap to get exactly 50-50 like beforehand, or if you had like $1,000 and maybe 0.5 ETH, that's enough? Or yeah, you
Yeah,
would
always.
optimize the amount. You would swap to get the best or the largest amount deposited.
Yeah, probably, and or just keep. I always like to have a little bit. I mean, it's I guess kind of like trading. You always want to keep, I guess, 10 to 20%, I get in cash, I guess, cash
Mm.
USDC or something, but just so that I always have some sort of liquidity available, just if I want to do something else, and that's outside of just my normal, like 10% just for gas fees and all of that stuff. So kind of something like that. So
Yeah.
for this, it'd be like you're saying, it's kind of I would always want to have some amount, a to be able to just have some freedom to do anything, but I probably wouldn't go 100% for in any position here.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the sizing of a Uniswap position is however much you have. You just kind of deposit. You may say I put 50%, 90%, 95. But yes, it's mostly like how much you want to get exposure.
Yeah.
In Panoptic, we use like a prime brokerage system, but it's like a margin system. That position here has some collateral, 4,000 USDC, a tiny bit of ETH, which is I think the fees that LP position collected. But we're not bound by these deposits. We can actually borrow exactly what we want and move it into. So there's no swapping necessary. There's no limitation of, oh, I only have zero point 0.5 ETH. I want to put 1 ETH. You can actually borrow that amount. That simplifies things a little bit. But because there's borrowing, there is a level of leverage or margining that exists. And the way that we size position is in this kind of buying power or margin requirement. So that collateral is about $4,000. You can say, let's use 25% of that margin, or 10%, or 5, or even 1%, or max. Again, we have $4,000 worth of collateral. The max position size we can do is 4.2 ETH, which is again $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
In a weird way, we have $4,000. We can create $10,000 worth of positions. I would not recommend going as high. And the one thing that we've saw with Rosalie previously is also you want to manage your risk. You want to have some room to play, some wiggle room, so that you don't overextend. And
Yeah.
typically between 10 to 20 to maybe 25% is where you want to be. And in that case, that means that maybe 25% seems like a round number. You have 25% buying power utilization means that you have a one ETH contract.
Yeah.
And that means you're effectively putting one ETH on the call side, one ETH on the put side. In a weird way, it's two ETHs, but the key point is that you're only utilizing 25% of your buying power. You have 75% to allow for price moves and kind of liquidations to play its role, or to redeploy or capitalize on a different event if you want to. So that leaves enough money on the table to kind of be creating maybe another one or two more positions if you need to.
Right. Yeah, I think as a more passive, I guess, investor, the wider and more longer dated my positions are, the happier I am to take on more margin, or like use up more of my margin, I guess, so that it's, I'm not as affected by like price swings, and kind of like the tighter my position is, the probably lower I want to use.
Okay, so yeah, being a bit more risk averse, I would narrow down maybe 10%, 12.
Yeah.
So if you do 0.5 ETH would be maybe 12%.
Yeah. Like
That's
if we were doing
perfect.
a monthly, yeah, monthly, I'd be
Yes.
happy to do the 25, but
Yes.
with the weekly, I kind of want to bump down to the 10, just because I quite literally won't be active. I'll be at a conference, out and about,
Yeah. And
not
and
on my
the,
phone.
the,
So
the
like,
big scare is that market collapses or moons and you're exposed to some risks. And the best way to manage risk is to control your size. And yes, given that you may be traveling, you can even do like a smaller zero point 0.4. But yes, that's another entry point. The worst that can happen maybe is that you lose maybe $300, $400, and that's fine. You can still gain, or it can still work for you and you can forget about it for a week. But yes, the fact that you may have to leave, you may have to not be on top, and it's a short dated, we can also reduce the size, which is the best way to also manage risk. Lower the size, nothing is you're not overextended, and that's enough for like peace of mind in a way.
yeah.
Okay, so maybe to Helen, we'll create a straddle on the ETH-USDC pair with a, maybe in that case, maybe 8% buying power utilization, but that's going to be kind of one that allows Izzy and Helen Keller to manage risk while they are doing BD activities on on Canadian soil.
Yeah.
Since we're here, I'll paste that link. So if you want to follow along, you could also create that same position yourself on Panoptic. This is on YouTube. Thanks for the viewers on YouTube. You can actually see it, but otherwise you can watch it on YouTube. But yeah, that's a very fine position by me. And yeah, we can see if when it creates it, how it
I got
goes.
his approval. That's how you know it's good.
Yeah. All right. So very quickly, I don't know if you want to have a look at the existing positions, but we have ETH BTC and also ETH SPX 6900.
Let's look at the ETH BTC just so we can. I'm curious also to see what other people are doing in the
Yeah.
in the pool, betting on the ratio, because I know that's was something we had discussed previously.
Yep.
That I know if we zoom out over the last 5 years, it's been on a steady decline.
Yes.
But because the price was kind of hitting what I felt to be somewhat of a bottom for ETH, I was saying possibly in the short term, flatter up, but
Yeah, I think
if
this.
you zoom out long term, again, it could just be a blip that continues on downwards. But if BTC kind of goes on a run, just it's going to pull the rest of the market with it, just on its own.
Yeah. So that position, I believe, was created after the big spike. So it
Oh,
was
okay.
created again last night. It seems, but pretty much go back the same price. So that position now was uh, a delta neutral trade that was kind of being kind of a bit on the neutral side again. The price was not going to move. This position has earned some premium over time. It's going up to the right because it's all in range. And yeah, that position is kind of working the way it is. One thing that is important, there is some leverage. I think we did the one-to-one, but this is the BTC ETH market. We can see all of the parameters. Helen has some BTC, some ETH. They created that position. They has one position here that is earning, wow, $1.2. Most of it is Streamia. One thing is important is that we have to know the risk of that position. Since there's borrowing or some level of leverage, there is a level of liquidation risk. In that case, current ratio is 0.024 and the liquidation is 0.047. If the ratio keeps maybe doubling or keeps going up, that position could be not in trouble, but at risk of being liquidated.
Mhm.
That's not something that LPs have to worry about, liquidations. But here in Panoptic, it is inherently leveraged. There is always a extra risk, maybe beyond impermanent losses, to be liquidated. And we can see like another question. Yeah,
Yeah. I guess like a fear for LPs is just that um, the more out of range you are, and when you close out your position, um, you're just theoretically, I guess, taking like a bigger hit.
yeah,
Like actually go to, because yeah, that's where the impermanence of the impermanent loss, right? It's
yeah.
like permanent until you close out your
So
position.
this
So
is, yeah, exactly. It's a perpetual option, so you never get forced to close. Like if you have an option that's expiring, like Friday night, yes, or maybe DT. At the end of the day, it is what it is. It is made permanent by whatever the brokerage firm you're using here. We have the same risk maybe on the upside, which is that price could go up again. The key point: if it hits 0.05, will be way out of the money. Will be losing a little bit. In that case, the collateral requirement will be too high and we can get liquidated. um, it's a monthly option, so we can see how we manage this, but again, we can do this next episode. But yeah, one thing to keep in mind is, yes, if you do create these positions, you may have a risk of liquidation. In here we show exactly where that collateral and requirement kind of cross, which is that required gets higher, you get liquidated.
and the current price, which I'm below it. So
Yeah, so it has to go up another 80%. That's right. I'm not worried, but yeah, we'll see how it ends. Lastly, let's look at the SPX 6900. Again, this is a meme coin trade. Definitely, it is earning some amount. All of those are relatively high buying power utilization. This one is particular because there's only one position, which is Helen's. But this is a delta neutral trade as well on the SPX 6900. It's been in range, it's earning fees, it has risks on both sides. Uh, and again, I don't know about how you feel about the price of SPX. Actually, have you ever looked at it?
I mean, not so much about I like I was saying, I just kind of like if BTC is kind of the barometer for the rest of the crypto industry. I feel like if ETH is on a tear and BTC is on a tear, then all the meme coins tend to
Also, the key
take
point
a
is that
ride.
it's
Yeah.
ETH meme coin pair as well. So that token will have to outperform ETH.
Right.
So if the price of ETH goes way up too fast, it could even go down in price. But it seems to be holding up very well. We haven't seen anything on the the price action we saw did not register anything on that ETH the price. It means that it just went up with it, but it did not underperform or perform. But yeah, this isn't one of those where the longer we are in range, the more fees we collect. It has to go up in a factor of, again, I think 50% up or 50% down for it to start losing money. So it's one of those
Right.
where we've seen them quite often with Rosalie. Is let's just have this play out, and finally let's look. We do have some liquidation risk. It has to go up again, factor of 3x up, and maybe another factor of 3x down. So again,
Yeah.
leverage can be risky, but I'm not worried about this price range.
Yeah. I'm comfortable
Yeah,
sitting.
it's a weird thing because you're the only depositor you can get liquidated, but you would be liquidating yourself, I guess, because no one would necessarily want to
Yeah.
cover the loss. So
Well,
it's just
that's kind of some of the fun with it though too, right? Like theoretically I can go into liquidation risk, but if no one liquidates me and the price swings
yes,
back, I can take the ride back, right? And
that's
make it
true.
out unscathed.
If you look at the ETH USDC pools, which have a lot of external liquidity, the liquidations not being handled in time means that the depositors and the protocol could have bad debt.
Right.
But in your case, you are the protocol. There's no one else, so you are probably fine, even not even liquidating yourself. or closing your positions. And yeah, I think we allow self liquidations in a weird way on the smart contract side, but you would be able to close your positions, not even pay any fee or penalty, and that's it. So, but
Wow.
yeah, this is 115% IV. We'll probably see this grow over the next few weeks very, very quickly. It's a high IV underlying, lots of trading on the SPX 6900 side. I don't know if it's Murad's tweets, but again, it's a different trade instrument than ETH or BTC. It has some intrinsic volatility. All of it is pure memes, I guess. There's no real value behind it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another
I
kind of
mean,
thing.
that's one of the common things people say about meme coins, right? Is just you're harvesting ball, or you can just harvest ball, I guess.
At least as an LP, that's what I would do. Making sure you provide a service in a way. Prices are moving, people want to trade. You provide this service. They pay you a bit because they pay the fees, but it's a service that you provide. And the more trading there is, the more you get in terms of return to compensate for the risks. But it's like you that's why you get paid. You take on some risk, you provide some service to the traders. They can trade and swap and kind of write the memes. You are just there maybe getting losses, but then you get compensated, hopefully equally, adequately for that.
Right. Well, I guess that's one of the questions I always have is why do other people LP? Is it to provide that service, or is it to take on that risk to earn extra fees? Is it don't know what else to do with my
Yeah, I mean,
my
we've met a few. Yeah, we've met a few here, even in the context of Panoptic, but it varies. But a lot of folks kind of are providing that fee, that service type of approach, which is let's maximize the fees. Let me hedge my risk in whichever way I can. But the key point is that you want to optimize fees. We should have a tally, but fees wise, like any LP earns a lot. It's a weird like 200, 300% APY, but the
Mhm.
price moves means that you lose sometimes all of it in a single day. But if you're hedging properly, the hedging cost could be 50% APY. You make 200, you still get a pretty juicy return. So that's where with Uniswap, you have to use other venues to hedge. On Panoptic, you can do all of it in house. It's just kind of a different way, but that should be the target as well. Maximize fees, be insensitive to price moves because you're fully hedged. And that differential means, yes, the price goes down 20%, you lose 5%, which is kind of a good way to offset the risks.
Yeah. And I guess maybe LP in pools where you're happy to end up in either.
Or yeah, and then the would you do SPX then or any meme coin if
I mean,
you
just maybe SPX just because I like the team and I like them and I like the. I mean, it's
True.
basically just spoof off of like the SB, like the index fund, right? So
Yeah.
um, I like that one. Not all of the meme coins for sure, but I'm kind of happy to take on some extra SPX if there's a price shift, but also
That's the
happy to.
thing.
I'm always happy
One of
to.
yeah, one of the limitations of Uniswap is that you are indeed potentially stuck with either tokens at the end.
Yeah,
You either sell them or there's not much else, maybe you hold. The
right.
key point is that as a options trader, you look for opportunities and you should be kind of insensitive to the underlying. And yes, if you see that the IV on yeah, SPX the highest, but ticker Bitcoin is high. Maybe you hate the coin, maybe you love it, but it should not be the entry criteria. It's just is the AV high, is the
Yeah.
liquidity well deployed? Can I earn some fees? And maybe you can keep it in ticker Bitcoin, or maybe you sell to ETH, but that should not be kind of the criteria because again the stocks that you see traded sometimes if you want to be like purist you say I won't trade I don't know the a cigarette company because of its impact, but maybe you can make money and then dump it in a way and you can still enter into that trade. So that's one of the things that you have to also be mindful.
Well, I guess it's different mindsets though, but I imagine a lot of LPers are also just community members that want to like provide maybe their tokens, right?
Provided service.
Or I mean, right, like you end up like you get some in an airdrop and it's either okay, you can just go straight to Uniswap and swap it for ETH or USDC, or you can just maybe it'll turn out good, or maybe you want to support the project. I imagine a number of LPs also just, like you're saying, provide the service for the community itself, happy to just keep earning fees and happy to maybe like end up in more. I mean, I can't help but be a little bit,
This
I
is
can't help it. I'm human. I like some of the tokens. I
no,
want to
exactly.
end up in them, and I can't help but not be a little
So
bit.
call to
And I
action
know,
for sure. Yeah, the protocols, the teams, the token launchers, to some extent, you want to have your community be able to enjoy the moves, be able to trade, be able to kind of make money as a service provider. No better way to do it on Panoptic, because you can now kind of uh, do it on the options landscape, which is not just providing liquidity, but setting an option. You can buy options, someone else can buy it. You can trade call options on a meme coin, which will have a totally different price impact than buying it outright or doing perps. So it's a slightly different way. But yes, definitely something that if, as a meme coin holder yourself, or a team launching a meme coin or any token, you do want to have people be incentivized to trade, be incentivized to provide that service, be incentivized to be in that.
well, just because also like if I'm doing it just for profit, right? There are a number of other things that I can do just from a staking standpoint. Like I can go into different strategies, and then I'm agnostic towards the underlying because I'm just in it for my yield. But
Mm-hmm.
I just, as an LPer, I'm doing it because I somewhat like some of the tokens sometimes too. Like with the Uni token or the SPX, it's just I have a weird connection with the projects. I have
Yeah.
some. I don't necessarily want to give it up, but I also, it's pointless for me to just hold it, right? I mean, a lot of meme coins where we just hold and kind of, maybe
I mean,
it'll
that's
go down,
right. There's a
but
graceful exit, even if you want, like selling calls. You can even kind of hedge your investments. But yeah, I do agree that even the want to bring the Uniswap, but Uniswap has a lot of TVL and lots of trading, especially I'm sure for people that either got it on the airdrop or are big believers in Uniswap. So there's not much to do with it except LP. So this is what we see a lot in these
well,
projects.
and then I do wonder. I mean, there's also, like you're saying, there is a happy departure date, sure, right? Where it's like, yeah, I do want to support this project, but for the right price, take it off my hands. Um,
Exactly.
where I think you could maybe kind of utilize Panoptic to collect those fees and be kind of an active community member, but also for the right price, I'll gladly be sold out.
Exactly. But yeah, very cool. So this is kind of maybe the next step, which is entering a new market. What's your criteria? But yeah, we can soon leave with that. But
Well, yeah, I guess as an au pair, entering into a new market with no attachments and no
yeah,
feelings, strictly because I see opportunity that you've kind of taught me to look for, I guess, right?
yeah,
Especially as you're saying with the IV changing, um, and as things kind of heat up a little bit. So
yeah.
if you're going
Okay.
through with a different mindset. Because usually it's just kind of off of volatility and fees, but also just because if I have it, let me LP with it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
um,
Awesome. So this was conversion therapy. Yeah, Izzy is definitely getting
I'm
converted.
slowly but surely getting there. It's hard for me to not care about my underlying. I know that to be a
Oh
ruthless and
no, but that's
a
it. Same thing.
trader,
Even
I
with
need to.
Rosalie, like she was getting emotional and she wanted to hold her meme coin for a bit longer,
Yeah,
maybe.
maybe
So
there's
like,
something about us being women and being attached, but I don't
oh,
know.
or I mean, it maybe the entry point. You really have to be extremely motivated, and once you have this, yes, ride that assumption all the way to the sunset if you need to. But yeah, the like she had a meme coin that, yeah, I don't care about it. I want to make money uh, shorting it, which is something you can do, but that's another
Yeah,
way. But
yeah,
I mean, personally, I'm very attached to ETH, of course. I mean, and
yeah.
then less to Bitcoin, and that may trade like make me a different trader.
Well,
But
yeah, I'd be curious. Yeah, exactly. With the see, that's a trade. I don't care what I end up in.
yeah,
So like
yeah,
that one's a
exactly.
little bit easier because if I end up in more Ether, if I end up in more BTC, like fine by me.
Yeah.
um, so that's one where I'm kind of happy to end up in either. But yeah, I do wonder if you have a different mindset towards that trade because you'd rather end up in more Ether.
Yeah, at least the my basis of choice, you have to keep one to some extent because all of Uniswap is in ETH. ETH Uni, ETH USDC, ETH BTC, it's a bit easier to keep track. And I don't know, with airdrops, I do have a bunch of ETH in a while that I was accumulating. So some people may think in terms of USDC, and that's a different type of trading than if it's ETH. But yes, I would say that the end result, of course, you want to get more of a token, and then maybe a couple of tokens, and each trade kind of brings you to that goal. But yeah, the risk you take is maybe not getting the one you want and being stuck with the wrong one in a way, and that's kind of the imperialized gamma risk. But at the end of the day, you do want to have a clear timeline in mind, a clear price range, a clear even escape hatch if everything goes badly. What do you do? X, Y, Z. So that's kind of a little bit more of the risk management that kind of as an options trader or an option seller you have to think about.
Yeah. Well, I can't also help but wonder maybe some interesting trade ideas for, right? Like if you do get tokens from an airdrop, let's say, you know, price might change over time, but you don't want to just trade it right away, right? Like, I mean, there's always some sort of like high volatility at TGE,
Yeah.
right? Like, and oftentimes it'll kind of dip down before like gradually building up again. I wonder if there's some good trades on, you know, setting some sort of like being able to accumulate those fees, but like I was saying before, you have a price in mind kind of where you'd be happy because you 2x or 3x your initial investment and you're happy to kind of let it go at that point. Like some maybe like
Yeah, so this is the Melania token trade, which was the rug pulled at the top, and then
yeah,
they made out with all the back. So yeah, the it's been a while, but yeah, the very first few days. Now we have meme coins, and it's like old news. But the some level of reputable token that launches every the first week is extremely
yeah,
volatile, risky maybe, but juicy in terms of premium as well. It's just a different type of trade. So we have to, unless we know like airdrops coming in, you have to be ready to respond as well. And then that's kind of one of the things that you have to be able to deploy capital so that you're not fully invested. You can say, okay, let me get some money out of that USDC pair, go to that new meme coin or DeFi token, and then kind of LP in there.
yeah. I mean, maybe we should look at some of the ones that are coming up, some of the big projects.
Where do you see this?
No, just I know from people talking with like I just some of the major protocols I feel like have there is the Hyperliquid. I feel like Eigen. I think even maybe Derive. Like I'd be curious to see. We could maybe take a look at how their liquidity spread is on Uniswap.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see. Um,
Actually,
I don't
yeah,
know.
the Eigen. We have some people trading the Eigen, including Rosalie, but yeah, the TVL on Uniswap as well probably tells an interesting story. But yeah, a lot of the interesting. A lot of the market making that we see for new tokens is definitely focused on centralized exchanges, perps, a little bit on dexes, so that you still see a lot of retail level LPing happening, which is kind of
Mhm.
more democratic than again. I don't know if I can market make a protocol on Binance. Probably not. You have to be a Wintermute or like one of those to do it. So at least here with Panoptic, any size you want, you can be a market maker on these coins.
Well, yeah, and we can maybe talk about it next time. But just looking at the ETH Eigen pool on Uniswap, a lot of Eigens stacked up above the current price.
Yeah,
And like I was saying, it's like kind of like a range order or something where people are
yeah.
maybe
So
happy to park it at certain heights.
this is the Panoptic liquidity a bit more wide, but yeah, this is a it would be buying it. I'd say if it goes, if it would be someone put a bunch of Eigen tokens there, no, a bunch of ETH there. Oh, I don't know where it went. If it goes to the left, it's all going to be Eigen. If it goes up, it's going to be ETH. Maybe this
Oh,
is
maybe it's
heading
all
up.
excuse me, wait, to the right is all the ETH?
Yeah, the basis is ETH. So the same way you are divesting into USDC if it goes up, here you're divesting out of Eigen into ETH if it goes up as well. If the price goes to the right, I guess. So um, yeah, I don't know. Again, we could do some on-chain sleuthing, but the key one is that this is a bunch of liquidity. I'm sure it's earning a bunch of fees, which is great. Maybe that person has had a big airdrop or their own ETH. But that's again what you see in Uniswap, which is let's maximize the fees. They may be incentive in which ratio of these two positions there is. Maybe more Eigen, more ETH. They're bullish on both. That's maybe what's happening here. But yeah.
Yeah. But maybe that's a good way to think about it too, is how to set up some trades as a community member who has a price.
Yeah, exactly. All right, very cool. So I think that's it for now. Thanks, everyone. This was conversion therapy. I don't know if Izzy's going to be on Wednesday, but we'll have options out. Are you? When are you leaving for consensus?
Wednesday morning. So
Okay,
I will
on
be
the
there.
plane. We've done it before.
I've done it before. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Izzy joined a company stand up from the plane, and then we got the updates, but then yeah, the discussion was a bit difficult, but that was
Yeah.
great. She ordered coffee midway of her update. I was like, wow. But yeah, anyways, we'll see everyone on Wednesday. It's going to be options hour, maybe trading competition as well, updates. This was very fun. Some people are. Have you seen the P&Ls on some of these positions on the trading competition? So we do one on base. People are crushing it. Of course, it's the buying of call options, which is paying off the most because of that upward move. But yeah, I think someone was making 800% on their
I mean,
investment.
what a fun time for us to be having a trading competition. What a lucky
Yes.
time.
Which is kind of that. Okay, no, it went down a little bit. Maybe that was a mistake, but yeah, the 150% is the best trader in a week, which is more. I mean, doubling their money more or less. But yeah,
Right.
the call option action definitely is to blame here, I guess, or to win. But yeah,
I mean, yeah, if ETH has gone up 60% in the last month, 38% in the last 5 days, then yeah, they're making
you can buy.
yeah.
I put some positions. Guillaume Lambert is not doing so well, but that's fine. I'm not losing.
Meet the CEO, get an extra prize.
Yes, I want the plushie. All right, this is it. Thanks so much, everyone. This was great. I'll see you guys on Wednesday, and overall, Easy will probably come